Hi, I am Godfrey Eso. Welcome to Unit 1 of our course, How to Be a Quantum Magnet for Money. Why do you need to be a quantum magnet for money? And what does it mean to be a quantum magnet for money? You probably know already that more than 80% of the wealth of the world is in the hands of the top 5%. What do these 5% do to get all the money that they get without necessarily being more educated than you, healthier than you, more religious than you, or working harder than you? You see, 95% of the world's population are either middle class or poor, and they don't teach money in school. What that means is that the only place where kids learn about money is in their households, in school, in the community. So from their teachers and peers and everybody else around that forms part of the community. But money is not in the curriculum. If 95% of the people are struggling with money, it means that money problems are all they talk about at home, and money myths are what they transmit. Children, therefore, inherit the poverty consciousness, and that is how 95% of the people keep remaining poor. On the other hand, the top 5%, they discuss money at the dinner table, in the golf course, wherever they find themselves, with their kids, with their spouses, with their peers. And so their children inherit the wealth consciousness and they go ahead to stay wealthy. So it's simple to understand why the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. But that is about to change, because right now you're taking this course and you've probably started other initiatives that are going to disrupt your money consciousness, change your paradigm from what you inherited from your parents and your community to what will place you in a position where you will also become a magnet to money, like our rich friends. Being a magnet to money means that money comes to you effortlessly through multiple channels in ever-increasing quantities on a continuous basis. That is the reality of the truly rich people. Because when you look at the amount of money that some people have, billions of dollars, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, there is no way you can justify that amount of money through effort. They don't work harder than you, not necessarily. And they certainly don't have more hours in a day than you. So real money is big money. And big money comes effortlessly through multiple channels in ever-increasing quantities on a continuous basis. The good fortune you have is that the person that is teaching this course to you is a career teacher, a career scientist. And I've had my own long journey from humble beginnings to freedom. Right now, as I speak, I am certain that there are at least 6 billion people in the world that I am richer than because of what I have learned and applied along the way. There was a time when I used to sleep on a bamboo bed with a straw mattress. The kind of bamboo flooring on the bed that would fall off at night when you're trying to turn. struggling to pull the covering to, shield yourself from the harsh cold in the Harmattan season in the savannah regions of Cameroon in Africa, where I come from. Our house was built when I was already 7 years old, and I remember fetching water from the nearby stream to come and help pound the mud with which the elderly ones would make the sun-dried bricks that were used to build our house. Part of my morning chores included fetching water from that same stream to water the dusty floor and sweep it before I rush off to school. In fact, it's not only until I had completed the university that my older siblings, who had started working at the time, gathered money, sacrificed their first earnings to cement and paint our house. So I have come a long way in these last few years, and I do have stories to tell about money. But the most important story I have to tell you is that wealth, prosperity, money, success, whatever you call it, does not come by chance. It is a science that functions through your mindset. And so the most important thing that needs to change in your life is your money mindset. And throughout this course, I will give you a scientific approach to doing so, because prosperity has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with location. It has nothing to do with your certificates. It has nothing to do with your specific job or line of business. So in this first module, let us focus on the evolution of money. Because if you understand how the idea of money evolved, you would have expanded your consciousness, your awareness, to the level where money starts flowing to you effortlessly. Because the only thing that is blocking money from coming into your life effortlessly is the fact that you have certain subconscious barriers that have been programmed into you because of the illusions, the myths, and the false notions that you have about money. So how did money evolve? Let us begin. There was a time when there were just a handful of people on the planet, or at least there were just a handful of people in each human society, such that everyone knew everyone else. What this meant is that if people wanted to eat, for example, a member of the community would go hunt the meat, another member would go gather the foodstuff, another member would go fetch firewood, and another member would go and fetch water. Together, they would assemble their inputs, cook that meal, and share it together. That is the simplest concept of a shared economy. But just to show you that there was a time when the only thing that existed in human society was value exchange. There was no money. But then societies grew bigger, and communities needed to start looking for a way of interacting with each other, since they could no longer have a shared economy in the purest sense. So if you needed milk, for example, you needed to carry maybe a bottle of oil to the person who had milk. So you would exchange a bottle of oil for a bottle of milk. That is what we call trade by barter. Now, imagine a scenario where you needed to travel to a nearby community to exchange a cow for 10 bunches of plantain. So it became obvious that trade by barter could become too laborious. So communities came up with the idea of tokens, a medium of exchange. So instead of transporting 10 goats to the next village and then transporting 20 bags of yam back to your own village, you could carry some tokens, some items that represented money. So a token, that is where the idea of money started. And in order for something to qualify as a token, a medium of exchange, it had to fulfill certain qualities. The first quality was durability. So communities would sit and decide that, okay, let us choose this item, let it symbolize a certain value, so that when I give you this item, you can give me goods worth the value that this item represents. And in turn, you can exchange that item for something else that you want, that somebody else had. So money had to be, tokens had to be durable, they had to be portable, they had to be divisible, they had to be acceptable by every member of the community, or else it wouldn't be very useful, right? Then they had to be limited in supply. Imagine if everyone had an unlimited supply of your token, then it would have no value, right? Then it had to be uniform throughout the economy. So those are the 6 qualities that tokens had, and those 6 qualities that were decided upon by our forefathers have continued until this day to be the 6 qualities of money. But just to put things in perspective, in those days, money took the form of tokens. For example, cowries. You know what cowries are? In some communities, it could be camwood. In some communities, it could be goat herds. So whatever was durable, uniform, acceptable, limited in supply, portable, and divisible, yes, communities could select that as a token. And so you see that any community was defined by what they decided their token to be, and that's how the concept of economies came about. So you would have, if you have a collection of people that have collectively accepted a certain token as a means of exchange, there you have a local economy. So from tokens, minerals or precious metals came into the picture. When precious metals were discovered, people realized that, these precious metals, they fulfill all the 6 qualities of money, and they are actually more durable and divisible than certain other items like cowries. So precious metals became adopted as medium of exchange. We're talking about gold and silver and so on. But then arose the problem of, how do you measure these metals? And the problem of measurement was solved by the concept of coins. So if you had the same metal, you knew that it contained the same intrinsic value, the same intrinsic weight, right? Therefore, if you were to cut that, an exact measure of that metal, you had a currency that was reliable. So coins came in shapes and sizes. that had uniform weight. And of course, uniform weight of the same metal means the same value. That is how the concept of gold coins, silver coins, copper coins, and so on came about. Then we entered the era of international trade. Merchants, invented ships, and they could ride on horses over, long distances to trade with neighboring communities or even as far as other countries. What problems did that pose? The same problem we had originally with trade by barter. Imagine how many gold coins you would need to carry on the back of your camel, for example, across the Sahara Desert to go and trade in Egypt if you were from Mali, for example. Metals are themselves heavy, so gold coins were heavy. But the good thing is that traders had already established trading communities, trading hubs, and they were brokers, So when people assembled in certain markets to trade certain goods, usually there were people who already knew each other. They had wholesalers, they had people who were serving as brokers between the buyers and sellers and so on. And so we got to a stage where the concept of notes came into being, IOUs. So if you had a certain broker that every member of the trading community recognized, that broker could write and sign a note attesting that you have deposited a certain number of gold coins with him. So instead of you carrying those gold coins with you, you carry the IOU. And when you give that IOU to the person that you're doing business with, that person could exchange it later on for gold with that broker. So the broker basically was the first banker. And having stores of gold with him also gave him the opportunity to start lending money in exchange for collateral. So you see that the modern concept of banking is just the old traditional practices that we have matured and formalized into the banking institutions of the world today. And understanding how these institutions evolved will give you the power to be able to transcend the limitations that you have in your mind about money. Because money is not a thing. Money is just an idea. Okay, so then came the time when money needed to be centralized. Because if you had a community, an economy, you had a currency, and you had people exchanging these currencies up and down. Now MOUs being used as a means of exchanging currency. The concept of centralization became logical, that everybody needed a certain reference point as the quote-unquote controllers of currency. So we've talked about our brokers who became the earliest bankers and lenders. But these people eventually moved from independent practitioners to institutions that the community empowered to carry out that role. And that's how the concept of the central bank came about. Unfortunately, central bank is now synonymous with government, and you will see how the marriage between banking and government has created the rigged economy that you're now a part of, in which, like I always say, money is an idea, but you are thinking that money is a thing. So, when we had the central banks, eventually we now came about with this concept of paper money. Paper money basically is those same IOU notes of the ancient merchants that the central banks could now print and say, okay, now the merchant is the central bank, and the central bank can print notes that represent money. But the good news is that for every bank note, for every paper money that you had in circulation, there was an equal amount of gold in the reserve to back up that piece of paper. So a bank note is essentially an IOU from the government, from the central bank. And in the early days, the IOU was backed up by actual money, actual gold. Therefore, paper money was real money. But it gave you the means of carrying a note with you instead of a bag of gold. So the government kept that gold for you in the reserve, and you could trade using that piece of paper representing that gold. So that is the concept of the gold standard. Whenever you hear of gold standard, that's what it's referring to. And for several centuries, it was all good. We had a real economy being run by real money, because every money in circulation, every paper money, every coin in circulation was backed up by real gold in the reserve of the central bank. But the 19th and 20th centuries have been very disruptive when it comes to global economics. First, we had the abolition of the slave trade. Then you had the scramble for Africa and Asia, which didn't last for too long, because by the mid-20th century, colonialism itself was abolished. You had the First World War, the Great Depression, and the Second World War. And the importance of this history lesson is that after the Second World War, the world was in so much disarray that this emerging power that called itself the United States of America took a strategic leadership role in redefining the future of the world, at least the economic future of the world. So the United Nations did not only oversee the creation of the United States did not only oversee the creation of the United Nations organization, it also oversaw the creation of the Bretton Woods institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and so on. And the US dollar became the reserve currency of the world. So, after the Second World War, while America was busy building the American dream, and the baby boomers were basking in this American dream, America was busy colonizing the world economically through the US dollar. That in itself is not a bad thing. The real tragedy was when President Richard Nixon, by executive order, took the US dollar off the gold standard. So, not to say that it was automatic, it had been going on for a while. Various countries had been struggling or flirting at least with the idea of getting off the gold standard. But the most critical moment in history, as far as money is concerned, is the taking off of the US dollar from the gold standard, because that meant that the entire world was getting off the gold standard, since the US dollar was, or still is, the reserve currency of the world. Why is that such an important thing to understand? Because the moment money got off the gold standard, all the paper money in the world became fake money. And yes, it's official. Fiat currency simply means fake currency. So the only legitimacy that the bill in your pocket has right now is the signature of the governor of your central bank. And that governor is a political appointee. In other words, you are using government money whose value is the government's word. And talking about the word of the government, how many trillion dollars did the US government print in 2020 alone in their COVID-19 relief efforts? As we speak, the United States national debt is more than 23 trillion US dollars. And I usually say that if the wealthy countries of the world, the United States, Germany, England, France, maybe, if the wealthy countries of the world were to pay all their debts, everyone in Africa and Asia would be rich. So you see that poverty is an artificial experience created by the rigged economy that has resulted from fake money, which is under the power of powerful governments. So the problem of the world is not a problem of availability of money, it's a problem of distribution of money. And again, money itself is fake. If you know that money is fake, if you understand how money became fake, if you understand how money works, how governments and big businesses move money around, and how you are trapped in the rat race, then and only then will you free yourself and be able to become a magnet to money as a result. So, from the time when money moved off the gold standard and governments had the ability to print as much money as they want, even though they will use grammar, say, okay, they're buying notes or bonds and so on. That is bullshit. Who understands that crap? And when do they ever exchange the bonds back? Or how do the bonds miraculously become value? So, since money left the gold standard, money has become just a tool in the hands of governments and big businesses. And for the past 40 years or so, the real currency of the world has been debt, not the dollar, not the British pound, or whatever your local currency is. We are living in a credit economy. And because we are living in a credit economy, the digitalization of money became the logical next step. Remember the credit cards? You probably have one. You live today, so you consume value today and pay later. The time gap is where the real money is. Therefore, the credit system creates money out of thin air. If you're able to buy a shirt today and pay tomorrow, what that means is that it is tomorrow that you are going to give to the economy the value in that represents this shirt that you already consumed yesterday. So what happened in that interim? You had an arbitrator, somebody who makes it possible for you to consume now and pay later. That person is the government, right? So the time gap between your consumption and your paying for it, that is the actual money. Therefore, we are living in a credit economy. And it is a credit economy that makes the digitalization of money possible. Let's go one step further. Why is it that banks have more loans? Let me put it this way. The amount of money that banks give out in loans is always greater than the amount of assets that the banks have. Has that ever occurred to you? Banks create money in thin air. Yeah, they will not tell you, but they do that. So if a bank has $30 million as loans to customers, the total savings of customers in that bank may not be more than $10 million. There are regulations in various countries at varying degrees. But that is the basic concept. And why do banks do that? They know that it will never happen that everyone comes to the bank at the same time to withdraw their money. If that were to happen, the bank will crumble. And if you conduct an experiment and say, let us recall all the loans that we have out there. People, come and pay your loans and your interest and so on. And then let us pay all the customers' savings. You realize that the bank will be left over with a lot of money. Why? Because banks create money by punching numbers into computers. It may sound hard for you to understand, but get the scenario. When you apply for a loan with a bank, let's say a $1 million business loan, does the bank count $1 million and give you? No. They credit your account by $1 million. So what you really have is access to $1 million. You use that money over time as the need arises to a maximum of 1 million. You don't pull out $1 million all at once. So that flexibility that the bank has, they have created $1 million in your account, but you don't have an actual $1 million in your pocket or in your safe in that bank. So the whole idea of money has gone even crazier with this age of digitalization. And talking about digitalization, let's talk crypto. Blockchain technology is without doubt going to disrupt or going to redefine the economy of the world in this decade and in decades to come. The past decade was the experimental decade, and cryptocurrency has positioned itself in a way now that it is impossible for us to go back. We can only move forward. And what this means is that this concept of centralization and fake government money is also gradually being eroded by the power of decentralized digital economies that have been made possible by blockchain technology. Right now, for example, you can sit in the United States and do business with someone in South Africa using Bitcoin. You can sit in Nigeria and do business with somebody in China using Ethereum. And through blockchain and digital currency, we are now bypassing the government paper money and the limitations that the local rigged economies have created. We are moving to a truly global economy, a truly shared economy. And what do you realize? We are moving back to where we began. The concept of the shared economy. Just to show you that real money is what? Value. If real money is value, then money is not a thing. Money is an idea. And through this history lesson, which I hope you have enjoyed, you have seen how money has evolved over time from the simple shared economy of our forefathers to the new shared economy of the blockchain era. And everything in between has been just what? Symbols. So the thing you have been busy chasing has been what? A symbol of money, not money in itself. When you recognize money for what it really is, and you differentiate the symbol from the real money, then you become a free being. The scales will fall off your eyes. You feel liberated in your soul. And you start realizing that all along you have been wealthy, but you did not know it. Now you know it. Now you are ready to begin attracting money. So let us end this lesson with a simple exercise. And this 5-step exercise, I will repeat it in every lesson because that is the formula that you can practice on a daily basis to magnetize your money, yourself, to magnetize yourself so that money can flow to you effortlessly through multiple channels in ever-increasing quantities on a continuous basis. So our 5-step process says that you should 1. Spiritualize, 2. Mentalize, 3. Empathize, 4. Personalize, and 5. Actualize. To spiritualize means to become spiritually aware, to develop the quantum awareness, what I'm teaching you right now. When you take your eyes away from the symbol of money and become conscious of money as value or energy, then you're entering into the spirit of money rather than chasing the symbol or the form of money. Spirit simply means non-physical, right? So when you take your attention away from your physical senses that keep you glued to the form of money, and you become aware of money as energy, as value, then you're spiritualizing. And the way you spiritualize is that every day, read a book, follow a lesson, watch a video, or meditate. Do anything that awakens in you this awareness that money is not a thing. Money is value. And since you are value, you are always one with money. So you awaken the spiritual consciousness through any activity that works for you. Reading, watching a video, meditating, anything that works for you. But that is the first step. You spiritualize. The second step is that you mentalize. What does it mean to mentalize? Define how much money you want. Do you want a $100,000 annual income? Whatever your current monthly income is, whatever your current annual income is, I challenge you to fix it as your future monthly income. So I don't know which country you are in right now. Both your currency and your monthly income would definitely be different from that of other people in other countries. So let us use a frame of reference. Convert your current annual income into your future monthly income. Fix that as your goal and hold that goal in your mind. Then visualize an incident that implies that you are living at that level of income. Anything, whether it's the kind of house you're living in, or the kind of car you're driving, or the way your friends and family now treat you, pick one incident that implies that you are now living at that level of income. And then visualize that end result every night before you fall asleep. The third step is to empathize. Empathy means becoming emotionally one with something or somebody, right? So to empathize is to become emotionally one with a wealthy version of yourself. So rather than struggling to feel good, simply ask yourself, how would I be feeling if I already had the amount of money that I want to have? So it's the emotional version of living in the end, right? So living mentally in the end is visualizing. Living emotionally in the end is empathizing. The fourth step is you personalize. Become that person right now. No, there is a set of qualities, traits that the wealthy version of you would have if he or she were here right now. Not so? So look for those traits and start rehearsing them, start mirroring them. For example, when you are prosperous, you give more. So no matter what you have right now, create a practice of finding something to give. No matter how small, remember that the power of giving is in how it makes you feel. It makes you feel abundant. And what you're giving may be small to you, but it makes a world of difference to the receiver. Therefore, when you give something that creates value to the receiver, it generates in you the conviction that you are abundant. And we live in a vibrational universe that does not think in numbers, it thinks in vibrational frequency. So when you start feeling abundant, then you're aligning yourself to receive. So begin today to mirror the qualities of the wealthy version of you that you are becoming. That is how you personalize wealth. And finally, you actualize by taking action. When you practice step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, it will be very natural that you wake up every day with an inspired idea. When that inspired idea comes, take action on it, because money will not suddenly appear in your bank account. Money will not only follow the laid down channels of the economy in which you find yourself. So you always find yourself as part of an economy, a part of a transaction. You giving something in order to receive the money that you expect. So your intuition will usually lead you to the right place at the right time to do the right thing that will result in the money in your account. And that will not happen if you do not get up and go and take that action. So whenever you have an inspired idea, act on it. So these are the 5 steps that if you practice on a daily basis, you will be magnetizing yourself and aligning yourself in a way that money will begin to flow to you effortlessly through multiple channels in ever increasing quantities on a continuous basis. Thank you for watching this lesson. I hope you were taking notes. If not, you can always go back and retake the lesson, take notes, think about the things I've shared with you, practice the exercise I have given you, and see you in the next lesson.